Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce. Joyce, we're ready to do the 2024 Oscars.
Well, we've done them before
We were previewing them, but now we're full on. This is it.
because we're still in the middle of festivals. Toronto still happening.
We're recording this on Wednesday. Toronto's still happening. Telluride was last week. Venice, I think, is over. Obviously, they did the awards, so
Yes.
we're wrapping up the
And you
fest.
survived Telluride. Tell the people.
Telluride was great. Great fest this year. Boy, I had so much fun, Joyce. So many good movies, much better than last year. That was my big takeaway.
That's also my big takeaway from just this festival season in general. Just like things are delivering.
So last year at this time, before we got in the late August, we were like really psyched about movies like Bardo, a bunch of others, and they all flopped. White Noise. Remember White Noise?
We were there for the premiere at New York Film Festival.
Yeah, a lot of flops, and it was easy to just cross them off. The Sun. Remember The Sun?
Of course I remember The Sun. How could I forget The Sun?
Just a bunch of cross-offs. And this year, no cross-offs, really. I don't think there was one movie that I saw where I was like, oh, we don't have to worry about that at Telluride. And I saw a bunch of Telluride.
It sounds like most things were good to amazing.
Yeah. So it's interesting. The interesting thing about these fests, I feel like Venice and Telluride had vastly different lineups. So Venice had like Maestro, Priscilla, Ferrari, all got strong notices, I thought. And Poor Things was like the big one out of Venice. Telluride also had Poor Things, which was great. And The Holdovers.
My favorite thing about Poor Things, side note, is that it was originally supposed to hit theaters September 8th. So it would be out right now.
So I have no idea why it was ever going to come out on September 8th. I think they said the strikes forced the change. I don't believe that. I have no doubt. It makes no sense that it was going to come out September 8th.
No, it's kind of like this year's Promising Young Woman, because that was supposed to come out in the spring, but then that like COVID actually bumped that to December. But yeah.
I guess we could start with that one. Absolutely rules. One of the funniest movies I've seen in a long time. It's just a full-on hoot. And you had it in March, I think, in a lot of places, and I did too in our first picks. And then I dropped it because I was just like, maybe it's not
I
good.
did too, just because I'm just like, at that point, no one had seen it yet.
Mm-hmm.
When we did them on August 22nd.
Yes.
Yeah. And then it just had like that one teaser trailer. And I was like, I'll just drop it. I had the film and Emma Stone, I think. So I was like, and now I'm just like, I should have just kept them.
You should have just kept them. I thought that I would say the teaser trailer did not inspire a ton of confidence for me personally. I didn't love the marketing of the trailer. But in practice, the movie absolutely rules. It's so funny. If I had a critique, it would be that it's a little long.
How long is it?
I think it's like 220, maybe 230.
That's still shorter than a lot of films.
It's still shorter than a lot of films last year and certainly this year. But there are parts where I was like, oh, it definitely is a little long. But I would say just an absolute riotous movie, an incredible Emma Stone. I immediately shot her right to the top of my picks. I'm not sure she's going to win, but I have her in first right now.
I think I also have her in first right now, but I also don't think she's going to win. But I don't know who's winning that category, so what does it matter?
Very tight category, which we'll obviously talk about. One of the people I heard people comparing Emma Stone to a Telluride was perhaps Cate Blanchett from Tar, where it's a performance that will probably win numerous critics awards, including like New York Film Critics and maybe LA as well. And then there is a possibility that it wouldn't win at the Oscars because maybe there's like a more enthusiasm pick coming that we don't know about.
Well, in Kate's case, that performance already existed from Michelle Yeoh.
Right. So there's nobody now.
Yes.
That we've seen so far.
Yeah.
Probably. But she is absolutely riotous. The thing that surprised me was neither one of us had Ruffalo in our early picks. You had Defoe, I feel like, a lot.
I still have Defoe. I have double Poor Things now.
So I was almost going to do double Poor Things. Having seen it, I still think Matt Damon and Oppenheimer would be the double with him and Robert Downey Jr. But Mark Ruffalo could actually win supporting actor, I think.
I just want the Iron Man and Hulk showdown.
Science Bros, baby. We got to do it. I love it. Yeah, Mark Ruffalo in the movie. So I saw the movie with a bunch of people and everyone really liked it, but a couple of them were like, at Telluride, were like not feeling the vibes in the first like 20 minutes because it's a little...
Is it just like table setting?
it's not so much table setting, it's more like getting you the premise of the movie, if you're watching this and you're like, what is this movie, is basically like it's an adaptation of this book, and a woman played by Emma Stone dies by suicide while pregnant, and a mad scientist played by Willem Dafoe takes the brain of that unborn child and implants it into Emma Stone's body, and then reanimates her, and then now she's alive with the body of a grown woman.
He Frankenstein's her, so
and the brain of an infant. And so the first 10 minutes is Emma Stone walking around like an infant, stumbling around, throwing plates, not communicating in real language, very poor language skills. And it's strange. And I think if you're watching and you're just like not like vibing with it, it's strange. It's just very strange. And then she kind of like kicks into a little more of a, awareness, and Mark Ruffalo shows up at that point. I would say like maybe this is like 15-20 minutes in, and it just immediately takes off. It's absolutely hilarious. And so I was like, oh, people are like kind of pushing back against that, maybe that would be like somewhat of an issue, but no, it's still great, and it's so funny.
I don't think that's really like so much like as a bug of the film as it is just something that happens with like basically every film. Like you need to get into it and understand the premise.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think by the time, if the film is successful, by the time the film is over, you don't really remember the first act that much, or like the setup that much.
I also think, and people, again, like you said, this movie doesn't come out until December 8th. It's September 13th as we record this. So it's like 2 months that people are not going to be able to see this. So
I remember it would be in theaters for 5 days already.
I don't want to talk too much about it, but I will say, like, I'm very excited to watch it again because there's stuff that happens. Margaret Qualley's in the movie, and she shows up later in the narrative. It's not really a spoiler, but she ends up being like another experiment, basically, right, for like Defoe's character, I guess. And anyway, the reason I brought this up is like I think rewatching the movie and watching it again, knowing how Emma Stone evolves the performance and the character, would actually make the first 10-15 minutes even better on second viewing, because you really get to see how much work she does with the character.
Yeah, that's why you rewatch stuff.
It's great. It's also like a craps. It just feels, everyone at Telluride was like, it's going to get like at least 10 nominations, and it really could.
Like so another favorite. Yeah.
Another favorite. And another, right now, there are multiple movies I feel like that could get 9 to 10 nominations at least. Oppenheimer, Flower Moon, Poor Things, and Barbie probably still, even though Poor Things, I think, really does kneecap Barbie in a lot of places.
Yeah, that was the take.
It's
after
pretty solid take. They would make a great double feature. But like, for instance, Ruffalo, if you were holding on to Gosling winning for Barbie, who I still love in Barbie, it's one of the funniest performances ever. Ruffalo is basically doing Ken, but in a prestige costume drama. And so I feel like that will usurp Gosling. There's no original song though for Poor Things, I don't think.
Unfortunate. Yeah, because I think, most people probably think, or probably still think like Barbie's safe for like production design and a costume win, and now Poor Things is coming.
Yeah, I definitely think it'll still get nominated, but I think Poor Things,
but like for the win.
Yeah. So Poor Things was like a huge deal at Telluride. I don't know one person who didn't think it was great. And I've seen, it's like, it is somehow, while it's a risque material, I guess, because there's sex involved and nudity, it is not like, it didn't seem like it bothered anybody. I think that's like already an overblown like take, that it's like too risque.
Yeah, I've seen several takes about that, like people thinking the industry or voters would be clutching their pearls about it, but they had like a huge DJ screening last week, and they had an overflow theater.
The other thing I think it will work in its favor, at least I felt this, and another person I saw said the same thing without us actually talking about it, was when you read about this movie and you read it's like graphic sex or whatever you're thinking, right? Like, it's like, I don't know what I was expecting, but when you watch it, it's not that it's tame, but I was like, okay, like it didn't, like, it was not like
it's just like, I think like
super shocking.
I don't like, people are just like, the puritanism over like sex scenes these days is like completely out of hand. It's like most sex scenes are totally fine and mundane. So
yeah, and this one is like fun. It's like funny sex scenes, a lot of it, because she's like, obviously, like it's like again, the whole movie is very funny. So that was a winner at Telluride everywhere. A movie that also played well at Telluride that I would say played even better at TIFF is The Holdovers.
yes, it was last night, right, when it screened at TIFF.
I think last night or maybe the night before.
Yeah, I think it's had multiple screenings, but the tweet views from TIFF a little bit more, I wouldn't say they're rapturous, but like it leans more positive.
Oh yeah, our pal Jordan Hoffman, Joyce, has told me it was like one of his favorite movies of the year. He was ecstatic about it.
Is this his best picture winner?
I don't know. I gotta ask him, but I will say, like, he was not alone in that praise. I tell you, right, I think it went over okay. I think a lot of the people, and I felt this too, very solid, good movie. Completely what you expect. If you watch a trailer for it or you know anything about it, it's like, yep, there it is. That's the movie.
Well, you and I talked last week offline about this, and you were like ready to drop Paul Giamatti. So now are you holding on Paul?
Yes. After the response at TIFF,
After
I
TIFF,
think he'll get in. Yeah. I've actually now that I think we were saying, like, we'll go through these categories in a minute, but best actor and best actress I think are just too crowded. And like we said,
they're actually like all, well, I don't know, but the supportings are crowded in a different way, but like best actress is stacked.
I mean, best actress, I think there's at least 10 women who could stake claim to a legitimate chance at not being.
Yeah, you could have like 27 different permutations of a lineup.
And best actor, I also think has about like 8 or 9.
It is way, 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 way stronger than last year.
Yes. And I'll be curious to see how that plays out. I think supporting, like, you're right about the supporting, specifically supporting actor. I think there's like absolutely 4 locks. And then like the 5th one could be maybe 2 or 3 other guys. It's very competitive who's going to win, but there's not as many options to get nominated.
And then now they just love double nominees. So
right. So everybody's going to
which movie you're going to pick.
Right. But the Holdovers performed really well at Telluride and also at TIFF, obviously, even better, I would say, the response. So that one, and again, like, one of the things I was thinking of is that a lot of these are nothing here is like, it feels like, tell me if you agree with this, it feels like there's like 8 to 9 movies that I already think are going to get nominated for Best Picture, and that nothing has disabused that notion of that happening. And then the 10th spot, which maybe was Dune before it moved, is now like there's like a few movies.
I dropped Dune before it left 2023.
You were right on it. Like, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's not easy to pick these Best Picture nominees, but there's like, it feels like there's a set 8, potentially 9 that are like pretty in stone.
Yeah. One thing about the Holdovers, just to flash back to March when you weren't predicting it,
yes.
Because it was not written by Alexander Payne, and I was like, that doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I saw a tweet, I think it was yesterday, I don't know, a couple, maybe like over the past few days, someone thinks, like, in their review of the Holdovers, they thought Alexander Payne also wrote it, and he did not.
That's what's gonna help it win, and that's what it definitely is. It absolutely is. Like,
and then, it's just like, how many people think he also wrote this?
A lot of people do, for sure. And I was like, great. It's a good movie. It's very good. I think it wasn't a lot of and it seems like even at TIFF, there's not a lot of like emotion. There's not a lot of tears this year, right? Like,
it's a lot of pundits' favorite word, crowd pleasers.
They're crowd pleasers, but they're not like Holdovers is definitely warm-hearted, and you might tear up.
It's giving more Belfast in like its crowd pleasingness. It's not like an outright like feel good type of thing. I mean, I don't think Belfast is a crowd pleaser, but that was the narrative that pundits were peddling out of TIFF.
Yes, I think Holdovers is more of a crowd pleaser because it's funny. There are laughs.
Yeah, and but I think it's like more like of like a dramedy.
Yes.
Then, I mean, I haven't seen it, but I feel like it's more kind of like Sideways.
I think it's a little warmer than Sideways because
but like that's just like, it's not like
right.
like really like inspirational or something,
right.
like a Naiad.
Right.
which
Naiad
also
and
had a better reception at TIFF.
Naiad and Rustin are two movies that both had better receptions at TIFF than Telluride. I think both are going to do really well, and both have an outside shot at Best Picture nominations. I'm still not like going off of that. Naiad is really solid for what it is, and Rustin is also. So those are my takes on those. Again, they're movies that like, I don't even mean this as a. They're movies that like are made to be watched. Certainly, Rustin, I think, is like a great movie that kids could watch at school. You know what I mean? Like it's like you're like,
yeah, it's like introductory lesson to something.
yes. And I was thinking about it today, and I was like, I wouldn't call it, you know, it because it deals obviously with like civil rights movement, and it's like very serious subject matter, but it's I don't know what the word is, but I want to say like it's like well made because it's like entertaining, or it's engaging, I guess is the right way to frame it.
Well, yeah, because it's supposed to be inspirational and rousing.
Yes, and it's like
and the trailers cut that way too.
And the movie plays like it's like a very watchable movie, and he's great, Coleman Domingo, and like there's I think the Variety review was like the script is filled with like bumper sticker slogans, and that was meant as a positive. I'm like, that really was what it is. There's just like a million great lines in the movie. It's like really like just like, hey, this is good. And Naiad is I think people have pushed up against obviously Diana Naiad because of her controversial real life persona, and whether she did this swim on assisted.
Did you read the LA Times?
I did. I was like, you know, I feel like she did it. I don't know.
I mean, also it's like
whatever.
Like this is just like very well known in the swimming community.
Right.
So.
I think the theme of the movie though is regardless of whether like regardless of that LA Times piece and like the controversy, the theme of the movie is like, I'm an old person or old in like society's eyes, and I've been thrown away. And rather than having a Viking funeral, I'm gonna actually like do something. And like that's
you know really... what, 60s not that old.
No, but it's like it is old for some people in society, right? Or society thinks it. So I think that's a rousing thing to rally around. And the way Jodie Foster balances Annette Bening's performance is great. And I think they'll both get in. I have them both getting in because I think they're like a package deal. So if you have one, you should really have the other.
Yeah, I've thought about Jodie, but I didn't know like which Color Purple person to drop. I probably would drop Taraji.
I drop Taraji, yes.
Yeah, Naiad just it feels like the ultimate mom movie.
Yes.
And then Bike Riders feels like the ultimate dad movie, and I love a dad movie.
So, Bike Riders rules. That was definitely one of my favorite movies at Telluride. And it felt like when it premiered, a lot of people were like, it's fine. I know a couple of people who really liked it. And then it's kind of moved on.
Yeah, no one's talking about it anymore.
I actually have a hard time believing it'll get any recognition. I think
I don't expect that for Jeff Nichols films, really.
No. I think it has an outside shot at screenplay, though adapted screenplay is absolutely loaded, and I imagine it would be an adapted screenplay, even though it's like based on a book of photos and interviews. I think Jodie Comer was great in the movie, but would be in the lower tier of the best actress race, and I don't think any of the supporting actors, it would be Tom Hardy or Michael Shannon or whatever, would really pop. So it's a great movie. It will definitely, when we do our best movies of the year, Joyce, I guarantee you Bike Riders will be on my list, but I don't think it's getting anywhere at all, unfortunately. What else? Saltburn was another big one at Telluride, and only at Telluride, not at Venice and not at TIFF.
Yeah, and divisive,
absolutely fucking great. I loved it so much. It definitely
because it's Gossip Girl.
Also, it was a lot like Gossip Girl. I'd say I actually saw it twice at Telluride. I went in my last film. It was playing again at like 10:30 at night on the last night I was there, and I was like, I'm just gonna go.
A nightcap.
I was like, I'm just seeing this again. It's so watchable. It's like a lot of fun, and I don't think it's gonna get nominated really anywhere. I think I have it still in screenplay. No, I don't even have it in screenplay. I took it out, not because of the movie, but I just think it's like gonna be pretty divisive. I could see it doing well. Like I was trying to. This is another thing with this race this year, and I feel like. I was like curious what you think too. I'm like, it feels like there's a lot of very American movies, right, that will not play well with international audiences.
I was thinking about this with and also related to last year too, with Killers of the Flower Moon and Rustin, and then last year with Till. It's like those are just like very American stories, and then you contrast that with something like Oppenheimer, Universal.
Right, exactly. I thought that with Rustin. I thought that with American Fiction, which I have represented, and I did when we did our picks in August too. I still think there's going to be enough passion for those, but I'm like, this is not like is an international audience. This is not to like besmirch international audiences, but is an international audience going to understand? Maybe I haven't seen American Fiction, but based on the reviews, to understand the nuance and the satire of mocking white liberal elites and their take on allyship. Is that going to be something too quintessentially American versus like an international audience? Maybe, I don't know. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I ultimately think like everything is relatable, like you could always find something to relate to within a well-told story. I do think there is kind of like that initial barrier first, like just like culturally, like so yeah, I don't like something with like Killers of the Flower Moon, like there are atrocities all over the world, so like non-American audiences, like probably sometime in their country's history something like that happened. I think, but like the film itself is very American.
Yes, I think it'll be okay. I think
that one is fine. But
Rustin, certainly after Till last year, you feel like, oh, maybe that one, because it's American civil rights story, is not gonna but I actually think it's like the way it's told is, again, I think it will capture the imagination of, like, it's in a universal story, I think, right? And it is often the way they tell it is like putting on a show also, Rustin, which is because it's like all about the march. I mean, it really is just like about like how he like helped organize the march.
How's Lenny Kravitz?
I heard it while I was walking out.
Oh, it's a credit song.
It sure is.
Love a credit song.
Sure. I think it maybe could get nominated. I don't know. There were a lot of credit songs. There's also one in Naiad. Trying to think what else. So Saltburn, but back to Saltburn. If you had Barry in your picks, like Godspeed, he's awesome in it, but I don't know if he's gonna make it in. Barry Keoghan. I took him out on mine.
I think everyone has him out.
But God, he really goes for it. A complete go for broke performance. It's wonderful stuff. The movie's so entertaining. I just found it like really, really solid. I'm trying to think what else I saw at Telluride that was worth referencing. Let's see. Those are the big ones. I saw Anatomy of a Fall, which you saw also.
I love Anatomy of a Fall.
What a great movie.
That's also a long movie that does not feel long.
So I was thinking why it doesn't feel long. It's because it's really split into two.
Yeah.
Because you have the first like hour and a half is like domestic drama / like murder or death, you don't know. And then later there's the trial.
Yeah, and it's I said this to you and basically like everyone who's asked me what it's like, and I was like, it's like an HBO limited series.
It is.
And that's like a high compliment. It's kind of like what Big Little Lies season 2 could have been.
Yes. On Letterboxd, I wrote Law and Order Marriage Story, because it's like Marriage Story and like Big Little Lies basically put together into one movie.
But yeah, I really, really enjoyed that, and Sandra Huller's great.
I'm very bullish on the movie. And I have it in picture, I have it in actress and screenplay, and I did take it out in director just because I think director might be too crowded. But I think she's also a legitimate threat in director, Justine Triet. But I was wondering, after the movie, there's a lot of debate at the end of the movie, I think, because it does
purpose, like it's supposed to
talk. It's definitely a talker, and a lot of the conversation at Telluride was about, I could tell already, I'm like, people did not like her character, and I'm wondering if that will be because we know like they don't the voters are very sexist and they don't like difficult, in quotes, women, and I'm wondering if that would be an impediment to liking the movie if you're like a quote unquote steak eater.
Well, I mean, not to spoil it.
No.
But I think, you know, like her son also testifies. A great scene.
Great.
Milo Machado Grainer, he would be a very deserving supporting actor nominee. Don't think it'll happen because they don't like little boys.
He'll definitely get a lot of breakout awards though.
Yeah, breakout young actor,
Young actor,
Critics'
Critics' Choice. Yeah, hell yeah.
for sure. But yeah, I think his arc kind of buffers that a little.
Yeah.
So, and then I mean, I do think like by the end of the film, like you understand what went wrong in their marriage.
Yeah.
You know?
I really liked it, and I really liked her in it, and I thought the character was good. But then when I was walking out, like I said, I had people being like, "Oh, I did not like her" or whatever, and I'm like,
I feel
okay.
like a lot of the basic response would be like, "She's a bitch."
Yes, pretty much. So I'm like so that concerned me a little bit for her, Sandra Huller, as an actress nominee. But I'm gonna go with it because I think she's like remarkable.
She's so good, yeah, and she has so many big scenes.
A lot of big scenes, and she has Zone of Interest as well, which I saw at Telluride, and I don't think is going to be it's not going to be on. I don't think it's going to take off.
She's also going to be in supporting for that.
So she'll be in supporting for that, and she's absolutely her character is just the worst in it, and obviously she's like
I wonder why.
a Nazi wife. And I just thought she was like incredible in that too. I don't think she'll get nominated for that, but I think that also helps her her Anatomy of a Fall nomination because she's got these two performances.
Yeah, I still have her in, and I think she'll just be like the international nominee.
And Zone of Interest, like I said, I think there was a world where it could be. I think I had it. Maybe Jonathan Glazer I toyed with, and I had him in August, and I didn't have it in for picture, and now I have him out and the picture out. I don't think it's a great movie, but I think it's a little too detached. And the way that, like we said, Telluride is more like older elites, and TIFF is obviously like much bigger and like a lot more basic, right? Like in its tastes. And I saw a lot of tweets about Zone of Interest afterwards that was just like snooze. And I was like, if this is going to be like the mainstream view of this movie, I don't think it's going to be a major contender like maybe we thought.
Yeah, but like they're not the ones voting, so
true.
It just depends on like what's gonna fill out. Like I don't think it's winning Zone of Interest, but it'll be a lower tier nominee. So it's just like how strong is the competition for those last couple spots.
Before we get to that, I just want to go through we didn't go to Venice. The big things in Venice, like we said, were Priscilla, which seems like typical Sophie Coppola movie. That was my take.
Kaylee Spaney, Volpe Cup, Best Actress.
Love the Volpe Cup. I'm sure we'll be talking about her, but I still don't have her in. But I think that
I don't have her in either. And then so Emma Stone was ineligible for the Volpe Cup because Poor Things won the Golden Lion.
So she probably would have won if it didn't.
Yeah, she won for La La Land.
So, but I did love seeing Kaylee Spaney winning the Volpe Cup. So that was that. Ferrari, it seemed like mixed. But like maybe
Ferrari feels like another Bike Riders to me, where when it premiered, it was also one of the first, like the first premiere, so everyone was excited, like amped up, and then it was a lot of like Penelope Cruz. Penelope Cruz was the Jodie Comer. Everyone talking about her, like, can she get nominated? And now like dead, like no one's talking about it. I'm excited to see it, but I'm just like the conversation about it has died.
I agree. I'm thrilled to see it. I can't wait to see it. The other thing is that Neon seemingly has like 6 other movies that it could be putting in front of it, right? Including Anatomy of a Fall, including Origin, which was at TIFF, including Perfect Days, I think. So they have a lot of product this fall. So I was like, but I'm very psyched for Ferrari, and it sounds like it's definitely a quote return to form for Michael Mann after like Black Hat and a lot of failures in between. And then Maestro was the biggest one, I think, at Venice. And I gotta say, a little muted. That was my take on the reviews.
I thought the response was what I expected. Like I didn't expect it to flop, but I didn't expect like all out raves either. So it was flop. On par. Right. So
it definitely did not flop. A lot of strong reviews. Everyone all over Carey Mulligan, right? Like stealing the movie.
Which we knew, like, you know, I had some tea.
Yeah, same.
So.
And Bradley being perfectly solid. It didn't seem like, again, this is the Venice audience. If you think Telluride is full of elite rich morons, Venice audience got to be way worse,
I mean,
right?
they have
I
boats.
imagine, right? So who knows how it will play in New York and like going forward. But I was like, I didn't get this. It did not have a lot of like Poor Things like was like euphoric response, right? And like Maestro was like solid. Like you said, it didn't flop at all. None of these movies did poorly at any of these debuts, but it was not like, it actually made me, I took it out in like a couple of spots where I had it, including one I guess we'll talk about when we do it. But I was like a little surprised, not surprised, but I guess I was like, oh, okay. Like it didn't pop off the internet screen because obviously we haven't seen it yet.
No, but again, that's just what I kind of expected for it. So I don't know, like, yeah, because like I heard that like Carrie was the best performance in the film. I mean, again, I haven't seen it, so I don't know. I have no opinion on it. So, but that's just what people have said to me. So,
and that's what the review said. We have like documented proof of that, I guess.
Yeah, and then it's just like a lovely like ode to Leonard Bernstein, and then it focuses on their marriage, like that's the prism through which he filters his career, which we also like kind of knew. So there's like nothing about the response that surprised me.
And it sounds like a movie that will get like a decent amount of nominations.
Yes, and might not win anything.
I agree. And the other one that was another Netflix one there was The Killer, David Fincher, which again played pretty much exactly like I would have thought.
Yes.
Seems like Fincher heads like it. Some people didn't like it, and it's going to be great. I can't wait to see it. And I have no illusions that it will.
Oh yeah, I have no Oscar expectations for that.
But it sounds great. Can't wait. I'm trying to think what else. Toronto had American Fiction, which we talked about a little bit. That went over really big, felt like. Hitman was at Venice, and Toronto has no distribution yet, so don't even need to talk about
negotiating it. in the room.
I wonder if it would even if it gets distribution this right now, which I mean, imagine it will, and it could be another audience award contender because it seemed like it blew the roof off of TIFF. I don't know if it would come out this year.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, same thing with Lee too, Kate Winslet.
A little more muted on the response.
Yeah, well, she has the raves, but the film overall, not so much.
Right. So both of those I feel like would maybe get held for next year. I don't know. Who knows? Whenever. I mean, maybe there'll be maybe I guess whoever gets those movies would then like probably look at the landscape.
Yes.
And say like, can I get Kate Winslet a Best Actress nomination? Can I get Glenn Powell in the Best Actor race? Because it sounds like he's like movie star great, or Rich Linklater in the directing race. Anything else at TIFF that was like new, that was big? I don't know. Oh, Taika Waititi's movie Next Goal Wins finally debuted. Seemed whatever. I mean, nothing bad, nothing good.
That
even
just kind of feels like after everything it went through, it's just like, oh, it's like a sigh of relief that we can finally get it out.
And then the other TIFF one was Dumb Money, which played really, really well, much better than I expected, honestly. Though I've heard like B minus from some people.
Yeah, that's also kind of what I expected for it. So
and maybe an adapted screenplay nomination, but I don't have it in there either. Do you want to do our picks here? Go through them? We kind of like have gone over this, but I feel like we said, Best Picture, and we have a lot of emails too, which we'll get to. We should talk about this stuff. Best Picture, though, I did not make a lot of moves since August. I had to drop Dune, which you had already done, and I dropped Saltburn, having seen it. Though no fault of the movie because it rules. And I added in Air, and I guess that's, did I add, what else did I add in? Air and, let me see. Oh, Maestro, I added back in because I didn't have it in.
Oh
no, I had it in. I don't even know what I dropped then. This is great stuff.
Well, you dropped Dune and Saltburn. You just had to replace two, so you put in.
Oh, Poor Things. I forgot Poor Things. So I added Poor Things and I put Air back in for my 10th. I have no idea why, Joyce, but I just keep going back to it as like a crowd pleaser, and it's a movie people seem to like. And I don't think the other movies that have been screening, like Zone of Interest, Saltburn, Rustin, All the Strangers, which we could talk about. I'll actually talk about later. I saw that at Telluride too. I don't know. Origin, I almost toyed with putting Origin in. I know a few pundits seemingly are very high on this movie's potential. They saw it at TIFF. Ava DuVernay's new movie. Also played at Venice. A lot of tears. Seems like people are really responding and weeping emotion. But I went with Air.
Love to get them to cry.
I just went with Air. I don't know. That's the 10th. But the other 9 I feel like are really set. Oppenheimer, and my order right now is Oppenheimer, Killers, Poor Things, Barbie, Holdovers. That's my top 5. And then Maestro, Anatomy of a Fall, Past Lives, Color Purple, and Air.
Air is also a comedy at the Globes.
Yes. Yes.
Funnier than The Martian.
Yeah, it's a funny movie. I'd say it's a comedy. I
don't have a problem with that. It's still, I think it's still inherently a sports drama, but it's very, very funny.
Yeah.
So, and then they're just gonna, I think they see that, an opening there. Drama.
And Matt will get in there, right? For actor.
When he wins his Globes for The Martian and Air.
Yeah.
So. The only thing I did was just drop Saltburn for Poor Things. So
okay. So you still have Zone of Interest.
I do. Yeah. Because it just kind of depends on how competitive it is in that range of like, I don't know, like 8, 9 to like 15. Right?
Yeah.
So, and then I think like its supporters will be very passionate about it too.
I do think that's true. I just don't know how many supporters it's going to have. I got to say, looking at this list, is there a single movie outside of Napoleon which is not screened that has a shot as being as a Best Picture nominee? The only one that like is really like unknown quantity at this point is Napoleon, right? Like everything else feels like
Color Purple.
Oh, Color Purple, right? But we have that in.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, I guess that could fall out if it's not any good. But everyone has that like penciled in already. Those are the only 2 major movies it seems like that have not screened in wide capacity.
Yeah. I don't know.
Is there, I guess we'll talk about this throughout the season and see how these movies play as like more things come out. Rustin and Naiad as potential Best Picture nominees. I do think that's possible based on this list, especially because I think they're going to have other nominations and acting nominations.
Well, I don't think that really matters if they have acting nominations on it. I mean, there have been films that just get acting nominations and like one other nomination. So like Rustin could just be actor and song.
I have it as actor and screenplay. I think it could be like that too.
I think like those, it really kind of also depends on how it plays with the public and if it takes off with them too. I could see both of them getting into SAG.
I absolutely think at least Rustin would get into SAG. I'm only questioning Naiad is because outside of the only other really recognizable actor in the movie is Rhys Ifans, and who's great. He's so good. And I actually wished I could have him into, he was on with him and Jodie Foster are my favorite parts of that movie. I think they're both like absolutely killer.
What's the title card situation in Naiad?
I think it's the 3 of them are all separate. And then I don't know. I don't really remember any of the other actors in it though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but like, did you stay and watch the credits to see who had their own title card?
I didn't.
Why?
I had to get out of there.
I'm so bad at this.
I want to leave. The movie's over. Let's wrap it up.
You gotta look at the title cards. Like I sit there just to see who gets the with and the and, so you see who has the better agent.
I guess I would say Naiad, there's not a lot of people who would be with or and. There's I mean,
no, but like there could be someone else with their own title card.
Sure.
You don't need the with or the and.
Sure. Rustin, I feel like is much more. I think Rustin could get in for SAG for sure because it's got like a lot of people in it. I mean, at the end of the movie, Devon Joy Randolph shows up for like 2 seconds. It's just like okay, it's just like
yeah, but does she have her own title card?
No, I don't think so. Anyway, I think those two are really strong possibilities because I think they'll play well with audiences. I think they'll play well with general audiences too, especially Rustin. I actually think the problem with Naiad, and we saw this, at least a couple of the people were pushing up against the Diana character because she's like not warm and cuddly, certainly, and the movie doesn't shy away from that at all. They play her up to be like,
men don't like
yes,
prickly
yeah,
women.
and
So.
that's gonna be, I think that would be an issue for the movie because she's an asshole sometimes, and like they call her an ass, like, you know, Jodie Foster's like calling her on her shit a lot of times, and that's what makes it good, and so is Reza fans, but I think people push up against her, whereas Rustin, it's just like, man, you know who I love? Bayard Rustin. He rules. What a great guy, great character. Just in, I'm rooting for that guy. So I think it could get in. I really do. For director, I made 2 changes because I had Jonathan Glazer and Justine Triet in August, and now I have Alexander Payne back in and Yorgos Lanthimos, who I actually think could maybe win. This is very competitive, though. The other people I have are Nolan, Greta Gerwig, and Martin Scorsese. So that's my 5.
I have Nolan, Scorsese, Yorgos, Justine Triet, and Alexander Payne. So I just dropped Jonathan Glazer for Yorgos.
If I had to drop anyone for Justine, I would drop Greta probably, but I still think Barbie is going to be the biggest thing, and I do think it's so much of her voice and such a success. I think that will be all of that kind of together puts her above Justine, but I don't know.
I feel like Anatomy could just be like one of those films that plays really well and people like, it never has like the spotlight on it,
right?
You know, so then, and I think like if Justine does get in over Greta, like casuals would be surprised.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all, but I just am not. I think the fact that Barbie was such a financial, I don't know, she's already gotten a nomination from the branch. The movie was like a huge success, and I think also creative success, right? Like it's like really does stick. It's like very much her voice in this big conglomerate, you know, like machine. And I think that will help her like win favor among the directors, but I don't know. I think the other
it's very competitive. And like that's why I don't have her in. Like I think like for me, she's probably like 6th or 7th.
right. I think for me she'd probably be like 5. But
I mean, if I put her in, she would be 5th for me. Like I've said this to you, but Barbie feels like a stronger Black Panther to me in that it has the potential for these above the line nominations that Black Panther was never going to get. Like it was never going to get Ryan Coogler or Chadwick Boseman or Michael B. Jordan, no matter how hard people try to make him happen.
Right.
It wasn't getting screenplay, you know, but Barbie can get all those things like lead and supporting director and screenplay. And then it could win like the same awards almost that like a music category and costumes and production design that Black Panther won. So I do think like Greta can get in, but I and like they're both of those films are also these huge cultural phenomenons, right? But sometimes I feel like just like the fervor over Barbie like is maybe kind of blinding people and making them overestimate how strong it'll actually perform.
I don't disagree with anything you said there, but I just think she'll still get. I still have her in. I would have Justine in 6th, and then I would probably have Jonathan Glazer in 7th if I was going to rank them.
I mean, I can see Jonathan getting in over both of them. So
me too. I could definitely see that. I think if it's going to get I think if Zone of Interest is going to get anywhere for me, it would be here because I think he is. It's obviously like a great filmmaking achievement. It's a great directorial achievement, I think, and the way the story is told, and the way he shoots, the way the movie is.
I mean, I've also thought about dropping Payne, so like I could do like Justine and Greta. So
I had Payne out for almost all of this, right? Let me see. I had him out in August, and then I have him out. And I had him. Yeah, I had him out all year. I had him out in March. I had him out in August. Now I put him in because of the response to the movie. I think people love this movie. The people who love it. And I think the idea of him doing this like Hal Ashby throwback 70s thing is very appealing to older people in the Academy. And like he will get a lot of credit for that. So I have him in now. I think he actually will get it. Because I also think it's like a top 5 Best Picture nominee.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna just stick with him because I've had him since March.
So I still have Nolan winning, and I'm not convinced at all that is where it's going to go, because I think Lanthimos would be like a really compelling winner, and Scorsese obviously is still there as the great Martin Scorsese. So who knows? But that's what I got right now.
I think Nolan can still win even if Oppenheimer doesn't win Best Picture.
Well, we don't need to decide this right now, but if it was going to split, do you think it's got a better chance of winning Nolan or winning Best Picture and losing Nolan?
I can see him, like, I actually can see both situations, but I think I don't know, because it also depends on how Poor Things does when it opens too, because I think right now we're also in the afterglow of Poor Things opening and being successful.
Right.
So like who knows what the vibe is going to be like in December.
Yeah.
But I think like Oppenheimer could just be like the tech directing win and not win Best Picture, especially if they're going to go with like an underdog of some sort, which is kind of like what they like, you know.
Best Actress, Joyce. I shot, like I said, I rocketed Emma Stone to the top of my list. I didn't even have her in August, so good job out of me. I have Carey Mulligan in second, Sandra Huller, Annette Bening, and then I'm still hanging on to Margot Robbie, but I don't know if I really feel that like that. I think the biggest riser of this festival run, besides Emma Stone, who is now I think first in the odds as well, she topped Fantasia, who is still up there for Color Purple, was Anjanae Ellis Taylor for Origin, was getting a lot of great buzz out of TIFF and Venice, and I think she could definitely get in here, especially as like a former nominee previously, like for King Richard. So I'm like, okay, like they know her. It's a great performance. Maybe she gets in. But I'm going to stick with Margot Robbie for Barbie just because I'm like, I think Barbie is still a top 5 Best Picture nominee. And I think if you like the movie, you love her. So like, why wouldn't she get nominated? But I'm not sure that's going to hold.
Because this category is loaded.
So who do you have now?
I just put Emma back in because I had Emma and then I dropped her for Margot. So then I just put her back in. So I have Emma, Sandra, Carey, Annette, and Fantasia.
So I don't have Fantasia. I'm going to hold out to see that movie, basically, or see what people say about it before I put her in. Greta Lee is still a popular pick for Past Lives, but I do feel like the ship on that has sailed a little bit.
We talked about this last month. Like, I was uneasy about her even back in March before I'd seen it, but it just feels like this category is too competitive and like her performance is just very subtle. And like she's like flashier in the morning show.
Yeah. Well, she's really going for it. In the morning show, she's going for it. I love that.
And so I don't have her in. I think she's kind of like in the like the 6 to 10 range, perhaps. So
we mentioned
I don't know who's gonna win here. So I have Emma in first, but I don't know who's gonna win.
Do you think Anjanae Ellis Taylor could get nominated?
I think that depends on the reception to the film, like how much they like the movie, and because just based on the stuff I've read about it, like, because it's like sort of like pseudo doc.
Yes.
In the way that Ava adapted it and cast the book. And so I feel like it might also feel maybe a little didactic if you're watching it. Again, have not seen it, but I feel like just reading some of the reviews like that, that could be like a little bit of a turnoff for viewers, if they're not jiving with the format.
I will say there were a lot of loud positive responses to that movie online, but
there are, but like who cares also? Like there's a lot of loud responses to a lot of movies.
Sure. But from people I've spoken to who saw it, Tiff, it definitely was not the consensus that it's like this monument. This
No, because I think, well, I mean, it's
content.
about an important subject matter. So I think that automatically makes you invested in it a little. But I do think the way it's told might hurt it a little as well. And like Ava, I think she talked to Variety, and she was like, if you sit through like 3 hours of like that guy, meaning Oppenheimer's process, would you sit through like 2 hours of Isabel's? And I'm like, well, you know, I think the structure of those films are also very different too. Again, haven't seen one of them. So
yeah, I'll reserve right to comment on that after I see Origin. But yeah. I have initial thoughts on it based on Oppenheimer, at least, because I know Oppenheimer. Who else here? Natalie Portman for May December, still obviously a top contender, but I've moved off of that movie, maybe recency bias because of all the other stuff that I've seen and that has been premiering, but this obviously premiered at Cannes and will play at New York Film Festival later this month. I still think she's got like a legitimate shot, but I do think just based on the way Naiad and Maestro performed at the fests, Natalie is now the third of these three Netflix contenders.
I don't think I ever had her in. And
I had her in.
Yeah, so when I did this last month, I chose Annette and Carrie over her.
I had all three, but now I don't. Kaylee Spaney, like you said, Volpe Cup winner, so I think she's a formidable, at least, person worth mentioning. So I don't know if that will make it in based on how these past Sofia Coppola movies have performed. I think it's going to be a great movie that is largely overlooked by Academy members. I hope that's not the case, but that's what it feels like.
Mm-hmm. So if it's not Emma, you have Carrie in second, so you think Carrie?
I do. I mean, I think I can make an argument for all of them. I think there will be a large amount of support for Annette Bening, certainly.
So what's funny to me about the Naiad reception is that I feel like the never won, overdue narrative, whatever, for Annette hasn't really been loud. No. It's just about her performance and like how good she is in the film. But and like there've been comments as like, oh, it's like an Oscar-worthy performance, but no one is like, she has never won before. That the type of copy that you would usually see for people in a situation like her, like this like elder stateswoman, a 4-time nominee who's never won, Hollywood royalty.
The trailer actually is a cheeky meta bit because Diana Naiad tried to swim 4 times and failed every time, and then on the 5th try she did win or whatever, made it across, right, from Cuba to Florida. And so that's mentioned in the trailer, and I thought that was funny because it's Annette Bening being like, I've done this, I've failed 4 times.
That's why she took the rope.
And right. So I was like, okay, I don't think it's out of the question that she can win. The problems I have, the reason I have not moved her above 4th is, even though I think it's like very competitive, I think the Emma Stone performance is like undeniable, and it's like a huge swing, and she nails it, and I think it's going to be like irresistible. If it's not, Carey Mulligan obviously I think is like also due, and like is apparently like great in the movie, and Sandra Huller, like you were saying, just absolutely killer scenes, so many great scenes, and it would not surprise me honestly if she won for this because I think she's so good in it. The thing with Annette is like physical transformation. She's like in the water and doing the swimming, and it's like really like, it's funny, like even though I think this is like a testament to the filmmaking, but and her performance, even though it's going to work out okay, like there's a lot of harrowing moments in the movie. We're like, holy shit, like how are they getting her out of this? Or like,
well, those are the best films when you know the result, you know how it's going to end, right, but you're still engaged.
So I think that's like really good, and she's in the water and she like is doing the swimming like literally in the water, and you don't even think twice. It's like, especially like a lot of movies I see now where I'm just like, this looks like shit, bad CGI, whatever, and it's like, I'm sure there's a lot of CGI involved with like the surroundings, because I'm sure they're not in the middle of the ocean, like with like a hurricane coming in and all these different things. And there is a lot of CGI in the movie because there's also like this did not work for me, but there's like dream sequences or because she's hallucinating because she's malnourished and dehydrated. That stuff did not work for me. But so there is VFX in the movie, but she's like great. I mean, it's just like a really great physical transformation. Like we said, she plays this character like very it's like not a likable in quotes character at times, and she does not shy away from that. So all of those I think are like reasons why you would expect her to win, and maybe she will. But I'm like, I'm not ready to put her above fourth yet. I don't know.
The other thing is, like, I mean, this category, you don't need a Best Picture nomination.
No.
Because like they don't care about women really. You know, and it took them forever just to give Best Picture and Best Actress to the same film again. And you know, we did have it last year, but I think, you know, there are multiple people competing here who we assume would be in Best Picture nominees, like Emma and Carrie and Sandra, and you don't have Fantasia.
But I have Margot.
And you have Color Purple. Yeah, Margot. Like these people are in Best Picture nominees, presumably.
Yeah.
And Naiad is not presumed to be a Best Picture nominee at this point, and might not be. And so it's like, I feel like she wouldn't really need to dominate the season to steamroll. And I think like her lack of a Best Picture nomination, should that be the case, would not matter if she were competing in a field like Julianne Moore was with Still Alice. Like that was a very, very weak Best Actress year. And it was just perfect timing for her to win her overdue Oscar. So
I think that's true. I do think Naiad though could get in for Best Picture, like we said. I do think it's not out of the question. So I think if it gets in all these movies, it could be where all 5 of the actresses are in Best Picture nominees. There are like a lot of, obviously, like, I mean, most of these contenders are for Best Picture nominees this year, or potential Best Picture nominees. I do think that makes it interesting, and maybe that ends up being like not. I don't know. Who knows? I guess we'll see. For Best Actor, Joyce, I made a few moves here. In August, I had Bradley, Leo, Giamatti, Barry Keoghan, and Cillian Murphy. And Cillian Murphy, I'll get it right one of these days, just once.
And then you'll work on Justine Triet.
So I think it's. I tell you right, they were saying Trite, but do you think it's Triet? Maybe the guy who was announcing it was just wrong. It's also possible. Anyway,
it's French. Like, why would
it be Triet? Justine Triet. All right. Anyway, I have Cillian Murphy, and I moved Coleman Domingo up to second. I just threw him in. I absolutely think he's getting in. Giamatti. I have Jeffrey Wright in for American Fiction and Leo for Killers of the Flower Moon. I booted Bradley, and I had Andrew Scott in there, but I booted him for Jeffrey Wright. So I guess we can talk about these 2 movies here and just my insane picks for this Best Actor race. So there you go. But what do you have now?
The only thing I did was drop Barry for Coleman.
So you have Bradley, Leo, Giamatti.
I have the top 5.
Cillian, and then Coleman. Here's my case for Jeffrey Wright or Andrew Scott over Bradley Cooper. Just full passion. American Fiction seemingly played through the roof. And if it's as good as like those reviews suggest at TIFF, I think it's going to be like a really big audience movie. I think it could win Audience Award at TIFF later this week. And I think it'll play really well. And Jeffrey Wright, I think, is a guy people really want to see get nominated for an Oscar. And that would help. Andrew Scott, similarly, I think All of the Strangers is like a great movie. It played really well at Telluride. I think there'll be a lot of passion for him. It's a movie that makes you cry, which is always good. And he's great. But I think there's not as much of a there's not as much of a community like we love this actor as there is around Jeffrey Wright. So that's why I put Jeffrey Wright in. And I think there's a world where Bradley, like I've said, like from the beginning, that I was not convinced of Leo making it in. I'm much more convinced now based on how these things played out. But I do think that there was a world where like they're not going to have a lot of number ones. And I don't know if Bradley is, I just think there's like, he'll just be like a 4 or 5 for a lot of people probably. And I think Jeffrey Wright could have like way more ones or passion. And that's why I put Bradley on the outside. The reviews made it seem like it's not even really and which we knew kind of that it's not even like it's not his movie, right? It's like Carrie's movie. And so I'm not sure he's getting in. So I put him out for Jeffrey Wright.
I mean, I think they're just co-leads. Like they're like equal or nearly equal co-leads. I mean, he gave her top billing. Her back is the poster.
Right.
So
I guess I don't mean like from I mean like more like the response is more like sharp, right? Like we expected
I think in general her praise is higher than his, but that doesn't mean that he can't get in because they're in different categories.
He could definitely get in, but I'm not sure there's going to be a lot of passion to get him in.
My thing with him is more that I think, especially early on, I don't know if it's true right now, but I think like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, whatever, a lot of people were picking him to win because it was like his time, quote unquote, and like he's overdue. But I'm also like, is he really? Because his Oscar nominations are inflated because he has Best Picture nominations, which are like whatever, like congratulations for producing Joker, but like really,
right. American Sniper, right?
And like he has the same amount of acting nominations as Annette Bening.
Right.
So, and so I think a lot of people like was just like, oh, like, he's playing a real person, and another directing effort, and it'll be prosthetics, not knowing what the discourse would be about set prosthetics. And so I think like he was the favorite sight unseen for basically everyone a couple months ago, and now I don't know who's winning, but I feel like in general people have also like come off of him too.
If I was going to put him in, he would be 5th for me, and so that's why I'm like I kind of don't think he'll make it in, because I just think there's going to be more passion around Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction, and it's seemingly, again, haven't seen it, just based on the reviews and like people I've talked to decide. It's a funny movie. It's an engaging performance. It's an actor who I think everyone loves, who's also in Rustin in like 2 scenes and like kills his 2 scenes there. And like you said, that movie's going to get like probably like could get a SAG Ensemble nomination. I just think there's like a lot of reasons to think Jeffrey Wright like explodes out of this season as someone who gets in over like Bradley Cooper. And if I had Bradley would be in 6 for me, because I think like it's not shocking if he got in, but I really think that Jeffrey Wright will get in over him. And I think Andrew Scott has like a strong shot, definitely at BAFTA. I think he'll definitely get in, honestly. But I don't think he'll make it in through the Oscars. I just think it's going to be, the movie is a little too small. And
he feels like someone who'll just win a bunch of critics awards, like highbrow critics awards.
I think he can win highbrow critics awards. I think he can get in at BAFTA. I think the movie could maybe get an adapted screenplay nomination, but I actually don't have it in there either. It also feels like, while people love Andrew Scott, I was trying to think, and he's a great stage actor and obviously like on TV as well. Like he's never had like a movie role that like people really loved, right? Like, or like was something that was like super significant like this.
I mean, like, are you using that as a reason not to predict him?
A little bit, because I just think like, because I just think like, it's like, there's no, again, I don't know if they predict like this, and maybe they don't, and they're not super sentimental, but I'm like, there's no like, oh, we got it. There's no like, we got to get this guy an Oscar. Not like with Brian Tyree Henry last year, it felt like he's had built up a world.
No, but like he's like, his trajectory is different.
Yeah.
But like there are like, they nominate people all the time who just have breakout roles. So I don't think it.
Yeah, but I don't think he like qualifies even as a breakout role. Like, I just think it's like a weird thing. Like Brian Tyree Henry last year for Causeway, it felt like to me was like, oh, this is a guy that people loved and has worked with a lot of different people and has made like a lot of good movies, and they're waiting to give him an Oscar nomination, right? Like that's what it kind of felt like. And I'm not sure Andrew Scott is at that, we're waiting to get this guy an Oscar nomination stage yet.
No, I don't think he has that vibe, but I don't think like his resume matters if they just like his performance in this film right now. Like they're not discriminatory in that way, and like maybe like they might not give you the win if like you're a dick. Like respect your resume, like, which is the speculation about Mickey Rourke's and Sylvester Stallone's losses. But like Andrew Scott, he was on Sherlock.
Yeah, no,
everyone loves Todd Priest.
Yeah.
So like I don't think it matters. Like like he's been around since the 90s.
He
So
has, but I
he's
just don't,
not
he's never had like
American, so he's not familiar to most American audiences. But I don't think that matters.
I don't think it does a little bit for this, but I guess we'll see. I don't have him in, so
I mean, like you're basically like like Cillian Murphy is like a slightly more successful Andrew Scott then. Like they're basically in the same boat, is what you're saying. Like Cillian's never been nominated before. He's been in bigger movies.
That's why I think it's different.
But
and his movies.
But I also don't think anyone is kind of like, we gotta get Cillian Murphy a nomination like before Oppenheimer. So
that's true. But I would say this, like when we were doing these picks in August, I didn't have Cillian Murphy even in, I don't think, right? Or when did we do this? In March, excuse me. I didn't have
I mean, I didn't have
in.
Cillian in March, but that was just because I was like Nolan acting, you know.
Well, for me, it was just like also like he's not the type, like they're not, who cares basically. And I kind of feel like that will end up being like maybe Andrew Scott as well. But it's a great performance. He's awesome in the movie. And I think it'll show up in a lot of places. Anybody else here?
And Best Actor, there's Joaquin and Napoleon.
Still haven't seen it, right?
So you Past Lives. I don't think so. Kingsley Ben-Adir for Bob Marley.
How about Jamie Foxx for The Burial?
Probably not. No. Adam Driver for Ari. A lot of comments about his accent again.
Nicolas Cage for Dream Scenario. People were excited about that at TIFF. Seems a little hard to imagine.
They are, but no.
Matt Damon for Air.
We'll get him the Comedy Globe win.
Hopkins for Freud's Last Session.
There, like this category is stronger than last year. Like I would say last year it would have been way easier for someone like Andrew Scott to get in.
Definitely, I agree.
We were struggling to fill out that category, and we're predicting Tom Cruise.
Yes.
So,
fun category. Let's see what's next on our list. Supporting actress. Did I make a lot of changes here? I keep going back. This one I find difficult, but let me see. In August, I had Emily Blunt, Lily Gladstone, Taraji, Devonjoy Randolph, and Julianne Moore. So I made a couple of tweaks then because I have Lily Gladstone, Devonjoy Randolph, Jodie Foster, Danielle Brooks, and Emily Blunt. I dropped Taraji.
This I have the same, but I'm like, I don't know who to drop to put in Jodie, but I guess I would have to do Taraji because I don't want to drop Lily, Davine, Emily, or Danielle, really. I mean, like, I would drop a Color Purple person, but I feel like even though Taraji has more predictions to win, or has like Danielle usurped her.
Danielle's in second now behind.
Okay, so she's usurped her. So maybe I'll just drop Taraji.
I mean, I did. I kind of don't know if that's right. I'm still torn on Emily Blunt, honestly, but it feels like she'll get in because of the strength of the movie.
I mean, if she doesn't get in for this, I don't know what she needs to do.
I mean, having seen the biggest, like we said, a lot of these are people we've talked about, like Devonjoy Randolph we were like going to be great in The Holdovers, and guess what? She's great in The Holdovers. So it's like nothing new there. Jodie Foster, Nyad Rules. I think it's like such a wonderful performance. She's so charming, really fun. Seems like she's having a blast, and is a great balance to Annette. Like I said earlier, I just think she'll absolutely get in. I would be very surprised if she didn't get in. It's just such a likable performance for like kind of like an actor who has been doing a lot of good work but hasn't been recognized in years. So maybe it's just like, oh, we love this person again.
Remember the Mauritanian?
I do.
Golden Globe winning performance. Yeah, I think at one point I had 4 Color Purple people nominated or getting nominations. So
I only have 1 now.
But
Danielle. Out of the festivals, like Penelope Cruz, like you had mentioned, was the big one people loved. Rosamund Pike and Saltburn is absolutely hilarious, though I actually think Alison Oliver, excuse me, was
your favorite show
from Conversation with Friends, which I loved, was amazing in it too. And doesn't steal Rosamund's thunder at all because she's so funny and really great in it. But I think that's like it doesn't help that there's like multiple people in the movie who could be supporting actress contenders for it.
What about Viola in Air?
I'm off of that. The people I was like toying with are, I think Vanessa Kirby for Napoleon could be like a legit contender if the movie's good, based on like what I've heard about her in it. It seems like a Carey Mulligan and Maestro situation, and there might be room in there for her, especially because it's also like basically a co-lead, even though there's the supporting. That's what it seems like, at least. And Sandra Huller, like I said, for Zone of Interest, I think could really maybe be a contender too.
And there's America Ferrera for Barbie, and also Dumb Money.
I'll give you one, and this is if the movie works and Andrew Scott can get in and it gets in for screenplay. Claire Foy is amazing in All of the Strangers and will absolutely have people weeping. So I feel like that's another
She missed for First Man. She missed for Women Talking.
I'm not predicting her, but I think she's great. She's like really good in All of the Strangers, and I think she could warrant. I bet you she gets in like somewhere, Critics' Choice, or when they have like 9 nominees, or whatever. Like she'll get in somewhere.
I don't know who else is there. There's, Rachel McAdams. I don't think that's gonna happen, but one of the early season releases.
Yeah.
And then
and Julianne Moore, who I dropped, but I mean certainly is like obviously.
Yeah, I never had her. So I don't know. So you still have Lily winning?
I do. I don't know how she doesn't win, but I guess we'll see. I'm like,
there's a new Flower Moon trailer today.
I know, I watched it. Pretty great.
So
for supporting,
they'll probably, I'm assuming they'll confirm her placement, whether she's lead or supporting soon. Like,
I tell you right,
now that things have been seen.
I tell you right, I was talking to somebody and they were like, we still don't know. It seems so obvious that she would be supporting, but we would have said the same thing last year about Michelle Williams for Fableman. So who knows?
Yeah, I mean, like, none of this surprises me that they haven't made a decision yet, because I just always assume that they're waiting to see how everything plays out at the festivals and see the lay of the land in both categories and then talk it out. Because Michelle was announced, like, her move to lead, or her decision to go lead after festivals too, because it was like September 21st after Fableman's won TIFF. So like I think like the role itself in Molly in Flower Moon is supporting. I wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to run her lead. So
I will say, if they run her lead, it would make this category a lot more interesting, because I don't know who would win.
It'll be like Michelle Williams, like vacating the category.
It would be the exact same thing.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if Lily is a stone cold lock right now, but it feels right.
Yeah.
On paper. I mean. So it doesn't mean like she will win, but yeah. So.
And then for supporting actor, in August, I had Damon, De Niro, Coleman Domingo for Color Purple, Downey, and Gosling. And now I have Downey, Ruffalo, Gosling, De Niro, and Matt Damon. I did not go to double Poor Things yet and Willem Dafoe, but I have double Oppenheimer with Matt Damon still.
I just dropped Coleman and put in Ruffalo. So I have RDJ, Ruffalo, De Niro, Gosling, and Dafoe. So Ruffalo kind of ruined my D's here.
He did.
Yeah, my 4 Ds and 1 G.
Having seen the movie, I still would be surprised if Dafoe got in. He's great.
Well, he would be a coattail. Like, I'm picking that movie as my double.
Right. He's great in it. You know who's great in it? Rami Youssef is amazing. I thought he was like really good in it. And I very much enjoyed him in the movie. Anyway, Ruffalo I think could really win. I don't know. I still think Downey has the edge, but there is definitely a compelling narrative also for Ruffalo to win.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if like those 2 movies end up being top 2. Because they're also both former nominees with multiple nominations.
Mm-hmm.
And you could argue that they are each overdue in some way.
I think so.
Oh, Yeah, I still have RDJ, and
I do too. Part of the reason why is I was like, and we'll have many months to talk about this, but I was like, I do think there's such a connection between Gosling, I think, is so funny in Barbie, and then you watch Ruffalo and he's also just hilarious. I mean, like, hilarious in the movie. Similar kind of like movies, at least in themes, maybe similar parts, at least in the way the characters are positioned with the lead actress. And I was just like, I do think there's going to be enough people who loved Gosling that they would pick him over Ruffalo. Like, you know what I mean? I think they're like close enough that maybe they, if not split their votes, like are gonna kind of battle it out enough to let Downey win because it's a different flavor of performance in those two. That was my reason for sticking him in first. But if like Poor Things has like 13 nominations, maybe I'll change my mind. I don't know.
so then you would have Poor Things winning 2 acting awards. Not that it can't.
I would. I mean, right now I have Oppenheimer winning 2, but I'm not convinced that Cillian Murphy is going to win. I think Coleman Domingo.
I have no idea who's.
I think Coleman.
I feel more secure predicting Lily and RDJ than having Cillian and Emma in first in lead.
Same.
So
we still don't know Color Purple. I mean, maybe Coleman Domingo is great, and hopefully he is, and it gets in. That would be fine. John McGraw for Past Lives, still very popular. Charles Melton, I've heard nothing but great things about for May December. Dominic Sessa, I really liked in The Holdovers. He's like doing like Lucas Hedges in Manchester vibes, but not everybody was as into it as me, I guess, in his performance. I don't know. I thought he was great, though. I thought he was like a great foil for Paul Giamatti, and he was great with Devondre Randolph. And if the movie is like a huge thing, maybe he does get in, but maybe not. I don't know. Damon, Paul Mescal for All of Us Strangers, incredibly good and moving, but I don't know if he would get in, but it's a great performance. Trying to think of who else here.
There's Jesse Plemons and Flower Moon is still hanging around here.
I see people still kind of predicting him, and like,
I think it's because they haven't seen it and don't know how little he is in it. Not that that would stop anyone from voting for him.
Well,
but
that's what I was gonna say is like he's in it more. Willem Dafoe is in Poor Things more than Jesse, but there would not be if you're nuts about Flower Moon, I guess it's not crazy to think that he could get in as a double nominee, because if you're predicting Willem Dafoe and Mark, maybe you could predict them together. I just don't think it's like that out of bounds, but I just don't see it.
I just feel like I mean, because Jesse plays Tom White, the FBI guy, and he's just like basically a plot device to kick off the third act and wrap up the story.
Right.
You know, so, or maybe people, since like he got in for Power of the Dog as a coattail, people are just like,
I kind of think that's it. Basically, to me, it's like I said, I have Damon. I think there will be a double nominee here. So I think it's either going to be Damon or Dafoe or Plemons. I really think those are like the 3 most likely fifth person.
Yeah, I've never had Matt because I don't know, like I feel like everyone, like outside of RDJ, everyone has a different secondary favorite supporting dude, or even first, like maybe RDJ is not your favorite, so I feel like it could just like the support, it could be like a JFK situation where it could feel multiple nominees,
maybe,
but it just like coalesces around one person.
Let's see, what do we got? The last 2 we're doing here, just to give an update. Adapted screenplay. I think I probably added Poor Things. In August I had American Fiction, Barbie, Killers, Oppenheimer, in the Zone of Interest, and now I have American Fiction, Barbie, Killers, Oppenheimer, and Poor Things. And I have Poor Things winning.
I thought about putting that in first, but I still have Oppenheimer. So I have Oppenheimer, Poor Things, Flower Moon, Barbie, and All of Us Strangers.
I think All of Us Strangers could definitely get in. It would make sense. Andrew Haigh, great writer director, and he spoke after the movie at Telluride and actually was like, I'm like, it's a very personal story, and I think he's going to make a really compelling advocate for his own movie, but like on the campaign trail, and I think he could definitely get into. I would have that in 6th behind American Fiction. I would love to find room for both of them. I guess if Barbie is somehow decamps to original screenplay, I would put them both in, but I don't see how that's possible. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's like Barbie is IP.
Yes.
So, I mean, there's no like book about her that the film is adapted from, but it's,
Based on this list of adapted original screenplays, I absolutely think they'll try to make it an original, and
oh yeah. I mean, it could win original.
and it could win. And also, I think they maybe have a shot at getting in. Who knows? I don't know. I mean, maybe they could get in on a ruling or whatever. I don't know. For original, in August, I had Anatomy of Fall, Holdovers, May December, Past Lives, and Saltburn. And now I've gone full chaos here. I have Holdovers, Anatomy of a Fall, Past Lives, Rustin, and Air.
I have, where am I? I have Holdovers, Anatomy of a Fall, Past Lives, Maestro, and Air. I don't know what's winning this. I just have Holdovers there
as a whole. Holdovers in first too. I think it could win.
So like, I do feel like if Barbie were somehow an original, it can win.
Yeah. If Barbie were an original, I'd drop Air.
Yeah.
I think Rustin is got a real shot at getting nominated. Co-written by Dustin Lance Black, former winner.
I feel like that could get into WGA because of ineligibilities.
And I just think it's like, yeah, it just seems like the type of thing that could get in. I don't know, especially with the rest of the nominee. Like, I didn't put Maestro in because I was like, no matter, even accepting that the reviews are solid to good to great, no one seemed to talk about the script at all. Like, I didn't hear like one thing.
No, but this category is just kind of weak. So
yeah. Saltburn, I really wanted to put back in or keep in, but I just was like, I think it's too polarizing, and I think people.
Yeah, that's why I got rid of it.
The other thing is, like, there are things that happen in the narrative. I'm not trying not to, I don't want to spoil it, but I'll just say there are things that happen in the narrative that people were not confused, but they were like, it was one of those movies where people were walking out and going, why did this, like, not accepting what happened, or not thinking that the script did a good enough job selling.
They wanted to be handheld.
No, I think they wanted it, not even, I don't even think it's like that. I think it's not like the thing, like All of Us Strangers, I think it doesn't hold your hand. So I think people were confused walking out of that movie the way it ends. This movie, I think people were like, that doesn't make sense. Why did that happen? Kind of like Promising Young Woman a little bit, right? Like, had a similar, like,
just like
didn't
plot
like it.
holes.
Yes, though I didn't find them to be holes, but I was like, because I just was like, I'm suspending disbelief when I can, right? But I was like, Promising Young Woman, I think people were like curious about some plot holes. And I think this similarly has things that people were pushing up against. So I think that, beyond being polarizing, would actually hurt it in the screenplay race, because I'm just like, if people are like having that reaction to it, maybe that means it's not as tight of a script as warrants inclusion. But it's great. It's so funny and like really great. Characters are awesome. May December, I've just moved off for now, I guess, but we'll see. The only other ones I was thinking were like Fair Play could get a nice bump again, but hasn't really yet.
That feels like something that would do well with like regional critics.
How about Priscilla?
You mean in adapted?
Yes. Somehow listed as original for us.
I can actually see it getting into adapted.
Anything else here? Perfect Days?
Probably not.
Basically what we're saying is there's like not a lot of movies here. That's why I rusted in. And Barbie could definitely win. If it gets in here.
Yeah, I mean, there's some like cool, like lower tier stuff, but I don't think they will get in. So
Should we do emails? I have so many, Joyce. We have weeks of emails.
Weeks. You can't blow the whole wad today.
I guess not. Email us at slugfest@golder.com. If we don't read, last week we got a comment that was like, you're rude because you asked for emails and you didn't read them. We got a lot of emails.
All of them.
If you email us, I promise you I'm reading it, and I promise you I'll try to read it on our show. Sometimes we don't, but email us at slugfest@golder.com. We respect your emails here. I'm just going to go down the list here. This one came from Daniel today. I'm sorry. This one came from Caleb. Excuse me. Read the wrong thing. Hi, Chris and Joyce. I want to hear your thoughts on All the Strangers and its awards chances. It currently has the highest rated film of the year on Metacritic. From what I saw, Andrew Scott's performance was one of the most buzzed about in the entire festival at Telluride, and a lot of outlets such as Variety seem to be pushing him and giving him a lot of visibility. I can honestly say he's 6th place right now behind the 5 everyone has in Best Actor, but I'm curious if he can break through and whose spot he would take. So you have the top 5. If you were going to put Andrew Scott in, who would you bump out? Or if it's not Andrew Scott, if one of those 5 is not going to make it in, who is the one?
I don't think this 5 is going to make it in because everyone has them right now.
So I picked Bradley Cooper. That was my out. But like, who would you pick?
I think I would do either Bradley or Coleman just because I don't think those are top 5 films in Best Picture.
So you think Paul Giamatti is like set?
I think I have holdovers in like 5, I think.
Same.
I mean, I actually have Paul in 5th here. I mean, I just kind of didn't really think about this when I just like put them in there. So, I mean, like Paul could be snubbed too. Like he was snubbed for Sideways, but I don't think it'll be Killian or Leo.
I don't think it'll be either of them, and I don't think it'll be Coleman. I do think Paul has like I'm a little nervous about because he was snubbed before, and I do wonder if people just kind of take him for granted. But I do think the love for the movie is so strong right now, and he's like the movie, so like I feel like he would get in. But I'm a little nervous about him getting in.
I think I just think holdovers will be stronger than Maestro and Rustin. So I guess, and like those 2 categories, picture and actor, are more connected.
Sure.
So
makes sense.
But yeah, like you were saying, like Andrew could just pull more number 1s than one of these 5.
I think it's possible.
Who's going to be the Andrea Riseborough this year?
I think it would be Andrew or Jeffrey, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I think that's like what I'm thinking of for this. I think like Andrew Scott and Jeffrey Wright are very much like Andrea Riseborough or Brian Tyree Henry, like in that kind of wheelhouse.
Who's going to mount a campaign if the strikes are over?
I mean, I think the number one, if we're ranking campaigns for this list, the number 1 would be Coleman Domingo, like all the way. He's like already doing stuff.
He'll have like the most, like the broad support.
So I think he would be number 1. I think,
but like he's already like assumed to be nominated anyway. Like Andrea was not, you know.
Right. I think Jeffrey and Andrew would have the most Riseborough-y support because I think, like we were saying, like a lot of people love him, but he hasn't done a lot of big movies. So I think like it's like there's the potential for people like Kate Winslet being like the greatest actor I've ever seen is Andrew Scott, that kind of thing, right? Like she did with Andrew Riseborough. So I think he has the most Riseborough-y potential.
But who would start the campaign?
I mean, he's worked with a lot of people, so it could be anybody. I don't know. Who do you? I mean, like
That's what I'm saying. He's been around. Like he's a BAFTA winner for TV.
Yeah,
like he's won a bunch of stuff.
Probably like Benedict Cumberbatch.
He has multiple Olivier awards too, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean he's obviously an acclaimed actor. He's just not been like a movie actor.
Yeah, but he's been in enough stuff. He's not new.
No, I'm not saying he's new.
I know, but you're using his history against him because he's not American.
I'm using his history against him because I think Jeffrey Wright has more of history. So I think if
Jeffrey Wright is more of like a face, like general public in America is familiar with.
I also think Hollywood, he's worked in so many different movies.
Yes, that's
So
true.
many
But
people.
I also like he's more of a Brian Tyree Henry, which is the analogy you were making,
Yes. And I
than
think
Andrew
Andrew's more
Scott. But I don't think it
Riceborough.
matters that like Andrew Scott has never been in like a huge movie before.
No, he could be Riceborough. And he could have like all these people being like, wow, what a great actor. Greatest actor. He's our greatest actor. They could both get in, maybe. And then Paul and Bradley are on the way out. I would doubt it.
I just don't think. I hate when I have what everyone is predicting.
Yeah.
But like I don't really have a reason yet to do something different.
Right.
But I also don't think like this 5 we have now on September 13th will be the 5 we have on January 23rd.
I don't either. Here's an email from Uri. It's Uri again. Hope you're well. Joyce, buckle up. It's pretty long. Buckle up. A lot of scrolling.
Are you going to read the whole thing?
Maybe. I'm very happy it's time for the Oscars. It was after a really weird year last year. Still disappointed Banshees and Tar went home empty-handed. This year feels also weird. I know it's only the beginning, but there are a lot of really heavy contenders, yet no real consensus pick for first place. Oppenheimer's in first right now because it's great and it's the most watched. But it also feels obvious, which I don't know if it's a bad thing per se. The last couple of years, the obvious choice didn't win. I'm really excited for Poor Things, and I had it and Emma and Yorgos since the beginning, so I can't wait to watch it. I also hope Past Lives and Greta Lee won't get lost in the shuffle. I'm pretty sure Barbie will win song if Wish doesn't come in the last minute and steal its thunder. And if they go to original screenplay, it can win there too. All of the Strangers looks really cool, and I hope Andrew gets in and drags Claire Foy with him, Rachel McAdams style. Speaking of Rachel, I know it won't happen, but she is amazing. And Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. And if she and the screenplay got recognition, I'll be very happy. And then there's a lot more, but I'm going to stop there for now.
So was that it? It was just a comment?
It's a lot of comments, not a question. I guess the one thing I want to ask you about that is the Oppenheimer thing. I think that's right. Oppenheimer is in first for most people, but it doesn't seem like is it actually going to win? I don't know.
Well, we talked about this last month because I was like, I don't think it behooves it to become the front runner and have the target on its back.
Yes.
And so like in the odds is in first place, but I don't know if perception wise people view it as the one to beat as they did. I guess last year at this point it was Fabelman's in first, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. So
we've seen like passion rules, right? For this.
Yeah, and like I do think there's a lot of passion for Oppenheimer, and it is a widely successful movie with a lot of cross appeal, which is important for Best Picture. And then a lot of these films also haven't opened yet, so like that's what we're waiting on to see the reception to that. And I think some people still think Flower Moon will win, even though it's not technically the front runner right now in the odds. A
couple of things I was thinking about with this. We both have Oppenheimer winning, right? I think still. And I would say Oppenheimer is like my favorite movie the whole year. It's certainly in the top. Like, it's great. But I was like, we talked about this, I guess, like maybe 2 weeks ago, where it's like Flower Moon was like a movie people were expecting to win last year. It's like been a front runner for 2 years.
It will always be a front runner whenever year it's supposed to be coming out.
There was a lot of talk at Telluride certainly about like the rollout and how it hadn't come to any of the festivals since Cannes. Premiered at Cannes, they showed it to a bunch of people, kind of iced it out. Now it's coming out in a month, and they're going to start screening again. But it's not scheduled to be at New York Film Festival. It's not scheduled to be at BF. It's one of the British ones, right? I think it was not BFI, London. But London Film Festival.
Well, they also they're no longer doing limited release. Like it's just going wide on October 20th.
Wide, and I'm kind of wondering. I actually wonder if that's part of the strategy of like cooling the temperature on the movie, and then allowing the movie to come out and be successful.
I mean, obviously it's a deliberate strategy. So it's like was a lot of anticipation and hype for it, and it went to Cannes. Uh, did as expected, got great reviews, and then was quiet throughout the summer while Barbenheimer took off.
And
then it's
part of
going
me,
to
yeah,
the fall festivals, and then it's just gonna open wide now in October.
I
So
kind of think it's like it's not underrated, right? But I'm like, I really do think it's like not, and maybe this is like obvious because people had it as a front runner, but I do think all this will pay off in the end and like help it potentially end up back on front for Best Picture. I don't think it's like it's now become, I feel like because it was like such a front runner, now it's the underdog compared to like Oppenheimer.
right,
And
but
maybe
what I expect will happen is like once it opens next month, like people will start predicting it, and Marty too again. So then it'll be back in first.
And I think if it doesn't win Best Picture, because I still think there's reasons it wouldn't win Best Picture, including the length. And I'll be curious to see how like regulars are going to take this movie when it's out. Like going to the local AMC to check out the new Marty movie, and it's 3.5 hours. That's a lot of soda refills for people. But I definitely think he could win for sure. Scorsese. Again, not like a shocking statement, maybe, but I'm like, it does feel like they have cooled the temperature enough on the movie and him that it's like he was on the cover of Time this week. That was a pretty great
Yeah,
interview.
they're rolling out all the press. Like Lily was in Interview Magazine.
Yes. And I just am like, I think again, if Nolan doesn't win for Oppenheimer, hard to imagine what he would win for. But there's like precedent for all of these like guys to not win, like Fincher, Nolan, Tarantino, PTA. None of these like great 90s dude directors that everyone loves have won. And so I'm like, maybe he just doesn't win. And maybe Scorsese wins director, even if Oppenheimer wins picture, because I think Oppenheimer, pound for pound, is a more watchable, having seen both, it's a much more watchable movie. And I think it has much more broad appeal. But I do think that there's enough passion and love for Marty with a great movie that he could still win. And maybe that's the split.
I don't know if it would split. So you're saying like you could see Flower Moon winning picture and Marty winning, or Oppenheimer winning one and picture and Marty winning director?
I could see that, honestly, because I think Oppenheimer feels like much like, again, thinking preferential ballot, Oppenheimer feels much more of a consensus pick to me.
Yeah, as the cross appeal. I don't know if Flower Moon will have that.
I don't either, but I do think like Scorsese then could be like, oh my God, like this is a master filmmaker, like maybe in his last hurrah or one of his last hurrahs, like making a great movie, and it's not about his childhood, so let's give him an Oscar, that kind of thing. And Nolan, you could wait. You're going to be around for another 40 years. So
I also don't know how much that narrative would play into it. Like that,
yeah,
I think we all like want to think that and assume it's a huge factor, but then they prove like it's not, usually. So, but I do think there is like a huge desire from Marty fanboys and just like cinephiles in general for him to get another one.
right.
So, but then there are also like Nolanites who want him
Right.
to get his first Oscar too.
Just while we're talking here, I finally got to the end of Uri's email. So I got another little bit here I wanted to pull out before.
Is it a question?
The last thought I'll leave you with, and I know there were a lot of thoughts. Yes, there were, is regarding The Color Purple. I know a lot of people have it in Best Picture, but I have reservations. The musical never received good reviews in regard to its book and score. The performers are the real attraction, and with such a stacked year in every acting category, it will have to improve a lot to get to the 10 for the performers to get nominations. I saw the New York Times piece with Blitz Bazawule and what changes the director did that sound good, but who knows until we actually see it with our own eyes. What do you think? Like,
I mean, that's basically what I have. I just have acting. I don't have it in screenplay or director.
No, but we do have it in picture.
I do.
It still feels like it's such a, not a weak year, but it feels like there's not another movie that I would put in above it right now.
Yeah, that's why I think I have it in like 9th.
Yeah, I have it in 9th too.
So, I mean, I don't like musicals don't usually get screenplay nominations anyway, so I wasn't really expecting that. And I think, awaiting reviews of the film, like I'm not gonna put Blitz in yet, but I think the actors can get in.
Right.
And like Fantasia had great reviews on Broadway. That's a Tony winning role. Danielle Brooks was nominated to for Tony. So yeah, I mean, like, this is like a huge question mark. And yeah, in the New York Times piece, it was last week, Blitz said he added more like fantasy sequences so you can get inside Ceely's mind. So it's like kind of like Chicago style.
Right.
So we'll see. I don't know.
Love that. Let me see here. Got other. we have so many I have to find. This one was from Callion, who's written before. Callion here. Thanks again for your wonderful Oscars playback series. Thanks. This is a fun one. Early critics predictions. Any early critics predictions for the trifecta at New York Film Critics Circle, LA Film Critics Circle, and National Society of Film Critics, based on what you've seen and what critics might push this year? Last year, I felt proud predicting Nope to pick up at least one trifecta award and place on the Cahiers du Cinema top 10 list, though. In retrospect, perhaps neither of those should have been much of a surprise. Perhaps something like Evil Does Not Exist could make Hamaguchi the Fellini of our time with respect to Oscar nominations. Also, do you think people are sleeping on The Killer and Fincher in Best Director? Looking forward to your thoughts. What do you think, Joyce? Evil Does Not Exist definitely could get in somewhere. I feel like New York Film Critics Circle for sure.
Yeah, so I was actually thinking about New York and Ryan Gosling, because I think we've talked about this before, and there have been many people predicting that he's like a shoo-in for New York because they love to do their like out there.
They're fun. It's fun.
They're fun pick, you know, like Tiffany Haddish, like yes. Whatever.
Regina Hall.
Yeah. But then I was wondering, like, is Barbie too big for him to win now? Because all those previous wins they were underdogs, and Ryan is not an underdog for Barbie.
I think it's
like would they want to like push back on that and like yes. surprise us and not go with him?
I absolutely don't think they're going to go with him. I think
you know people in New York.
So here's what I would say. I don't know. I haven't talked to any of these people about this, but I would say you'd have a better shot of like Glenn Howerton winning for Blackberry than Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, that's what I feel like might happen. Like he's not like everyone is expecting Ryan to win New York, and it's not going to happen because everyone is expecting it.
I think Glenn Howerton could easily win for that. I think I'm trying to look through this list here of our contenders and see who else. I mean, it's like
for supporting, let me
like
see.
It's not going to be any of the top contenders. I actually think Ruffalo could win because like I think Poor Things will do really well in New York, and I think he could win because it like be an easy one to predict. I think John Magaro could win for Past Lives, though that feels more LA to me for some reason.
Well, LA only has their lead and supporting gender neutral now. I mean, like the past in New York last year was Ki Kwan, right? Yeah, because he swept.
So they'll usually pick like one of the obvious ones. So like if you look at if you want to look at this, like actor for New York, I think is going to be like Paul Giamatti or Andrew Scott or Jeffrey Wright.
I think it could be Andrew.
And I think in LA it could be Paul Giamatti, Andrew Scott, or Jeffrey Wright. Who do you think?
Well, do you think they'll do like both male, both females, or a mix in LA?
I think in LA, I don't know. I think they'll do mixed. I think I could see somebody like Koji Yakusho winning for Perfect Days, at least one of these.
Yeah.
Probably LA. So maybe he wins one and then like Emma Stone wins the other in LA. I think actress in New York would probably be either Sandra Huller or Emma Stone.
Yeah, I can see Emma doing really well. With highbrow. So yeah. And then and I can also see like Killian winning one of them.
I kind of think like Lily, I think is going to be like the Ki Kwan of this year in the critics rate. Like it's like an obvious, like New York will just give her supporting actress and like,
oh, she'll just win LA supporting.
Kind of, right? I mean, I think like that seems like pretty like obvious. For For director, I think Jonathan Glazer would probably win one of these.
Yeah.
Either New York or LA. And then picture, I don't know. I think New York would have a great I mean, Marty, anytime Marty's involved in something, it feels like New York is going to just go with him. So like Flower Moon probably is the safest bet.
They did Irishman.
And you get him there at the dinner and he gets to go give a great speech and everybody loves it. So I think Killer Flower Moon probably is the leader in the clubhouse for New York. And then LA would probably be like Poor Things.
Yeah, I can see that.
National Society of Film Critics, what do you think? Oppenheimer?
I mean, like they can be kind of populist with the acting, but not really with like picture.
I think AFI holdovers will clean up. Like Giamatti,
Yeah.
best actor.
I can see like Coleman winning NBR.
Certainly.
Yeah.
This is fun. Love this.
Mm.
Let me see what else. I had another good one. Let me see. I gotta find it. Let's see. Nope, not that one. This is great stuff. Again, scintillating stuff. Did I have one? I had one about your tennis, Joyce. Did I read that one?
Today, no. You did not read about tennis today.
So this is from Daniel. Here you go. Daniel writes, "Hi, Joyce and Chris. As we're in the midst of the film festival season, it seems that Poor Things has emerged as a potential new Best Picture frontrunner, unless this is another case of hyperbolic festival talk, but the passion seems real. Do you think this is a good sign for Oppenheimer? Obviously, Killers of Flower Moon is still a factor too, but will this attention towards Poor Things prevent Oppenheimer from peaking too early? Also, Joyce, as a fellow tennis fanatic, I need your thoughts. What do you make of the cryptic tweets from Serena Williams and Nick Kyrgios following the news regarding health? I have my theories, but I'd love your expertise." That might as well have been not English for me, but what do you think? What do you think on that, Joyce?
So rude. You want me to do tennis first?
Let's do tennis first. Yeah. Daniel wants to know. I figured we could, make him happy.
Well, so quick background. Yesterday, Tuesday, the ruling finally came on Simona Halep's doping case. Okay. And she tested positive at last year's US Open for a banned substance. She's declared that, she unknowingly took the substance and she's always been clean, blah, blah, blah. So it's been long delayed. And yesterday they ruled that they gave her a 4-year sentence, which is like very long. And she's going to be 32 in 2 weeks. So she can play again in 2026. But anyway, a lot of tweets from a handful of tennis players yesterday. Daniel did not mention Jeannie Bouchard's tweet either, which was a lot more blunt than Serena. So Serena tweeted, 8 is a better number.
Okay.
And that is a reference to the 2019 Wimbledon final, in which Simona just destroyed Serena 6-2, 6-2. And that would have, if Serena had won that would have given her her 8th Wimbledon title. Okay. And then she was also retweeting stuff that her husband Alexis Ohanian tweeted, because he tweeted a photo of him at the US Open wearing a Dare shirt. And it was like, fashion does not go out of style or whatever. So I just love the pettiness in general, but I would just say that the ruling for Simona was for 2022. Okay. Not 2019. And also Serena was bad in that match. So
love it.
But Simona's gonna appeal. Okay. But Serena has tweeted a lot of shady stuff before. And Nick is very active on Twitter, and he always trolls people, responds to trolls too. So none of that is surprising. But yeah.
The more you know. I didn't know any of this. This is great. And the Oscars about it for Daniel. It's funny, like maybe this helps. We were just saying maybe Oppenheimer helps Killers of Flower Moon. Maybe Poor Things does help Oppenheimer then, right? Like it does feel like there was much more attention on Poor Things out of Venice and Telluride than previously expected, I guess.
I do agree with him that I think right now it's just kind of like the festival afterglow, like, and there's just so much hyperbolic praise for a lot of things that, as we've said, delivered. Nothing was terrible. But it felt like, this is what cracks me up about festival seasons. Like, every day there's a new premiere, and then like after every premiere is like there's a new winner. We got, like, I felt like every day, like over day, Labor Day weekend, we had a new Best Actress winner. It was like Carey Mulligan, Emma
Frontrunner,
Stone.
new
Yeah.
frontrunner.
Yeah.
There is
And they're
something
betting. They're gonna
very
win.
funny about this. There is something very funny. I do feel like, so you're like, I logged all this stuff on Letterboxd, right, when I was seeing it, and I was just like trying to manner my initial thoughts within how I felt the next day. And a lot of times
You need to take your time with these.
you do. And a lot of times the movies, I was like, even the ones I loved, I was like dropping it down a star or a half a star, because I was just like, you're coming out of the movie and you're like high on the supply, and then you're like, oh well, it's fine. Poor Things was one that I really liked and has remained something I really liked. I think I have issues with certain things about it. It's not a perfect movie, but I think it's like one that people will watch and walk out of exploding about how much they loved it. And so I think that helps it carry through as a strong contender. And I don't know if it's the front runner now. It's obviously not in our odds. It isn't yet, but it definitely is top 3 to me.
Yeah, I think, we know the festival reaction and seemingly some industry reaction is positive for it. So I think now it's just awaiting. It's like similar to Flower Moon. It's like you're just awaiting the general release and see how it plays. And then I do think, because that's coming out in December. So I guess, theoretically next month when Flower Moon comes out, it can dethrone Oppenheimer and like return to number 1, right? Even though I do think a lot of people do believe that Flower Moon is winning at this point, but like odds wise, it can do that. So then Oppenheimer wouldn't be in first anymore.
Right.
And then like come December, Poor Things opens, and then it's a huge hit. So then that could be number 1 too. So, and then maybe Oppenheimer drops to 3rd. I don't know.
I guess I'll be curious to see what like the general public is response to Poor Things, because I think it's like, I mean, some of it is funny. It's like funny, like there's mainstream, there's humor in it that's mainstream enough that it's like not, it's not like this, but I was like, it's not like, it's like if you like the Jim Carrey, you know what I mean? It's like if you like Jim Carrey movies in the 90s, like you're probably gonna laugh at this at times. It's like that funny and like that broad, but it's also very strange, and it's like just like weird. Like I don't know what people are gonna make of it. Like what are regular people gonna make of this movie, and how will that impact how it's seen in the race, I guess.
Yeah. Well, so we talked about this last week. Yeah, we did in our mid-season finale for the Emmys, which no one watched or listened to. So, but well, I just mean that if you're just like exclusively Oscars, I don't think you listen to that. But we did talk about this last week, what I'm about to say.
Yes.
That with the Oscars, especially in recent years, like the Best Picture winner is something that feels like quote unquote important or like has a message. Right. So which one of these like has, I mean, I think they all have messages, but like which message do you think voters will respond to the most?
I don't know. I think that Poor Things has the Barbie message in a more prestige picture packaging, and actually says different things than Barbie. I don't think they're saying the same thing, because I think Barbie is saying its message to the widest possible audience, and I think Poor Things is allowed to be more specific because it's not a 4-quadrant movie, right? Like that kind of thing. Kills Flower Moon, I think, has like a really compelling message. Oppenheimer, I think, is more of like a historical document than a message movie. Like I don't think there's like a great, you're not walking away from that.
But it's also, a cautionary tale.
Right. That's fair.
So
yeah, I mean, of the like, the other thing is like, a side note to that is these are like, we've seen people, the Best Picture, especially the recent winners, really, you want to like, or people are really cheerleading them and want them to win. There's like if not a group think, like it's like a club. You want to be on the club. You want to be in that club that's a club you want to join. You want to be with the people who love that movie.
And
You
they're
want to
usually
like
underdogs.
root for it, and it's an underdog. And I'm looking at this list and I'm like, what on earth would be that movie this year? Like none of these really, I don't think. I mean, like I honestly don't even know. What would it be? Even like my 10, I'm like Oppenheimer, Kills Flower Moon, Poor Things, Barbie, Holdovers, Maestro, Anatomy of Fall, Past Lives, Color Purple, and Air. None of those are like movies I think that are like underdogs that people would be like, I want to be like on that team.
I think like Past Lives is the underdog here, but I don't think it's gonna win because I think everything else around it is too strong.
For Past Lives to win, it would have to be like Coda.
Yeah, and I don't think that's gonna happen.
Thing.
And but yeah, like the top dogs, I think they're too big.
So then we're zigging away from like underdogs and going to what? Like what was the last? I mean, like
blockbuster to
not
win.
blockbuster,
You
but
mean like money wise?
I don't even mean money. I'm like, think about the last, like, here's like best picture winners. Like Everything Everywhere is like a big hit, but it was like an underdog, presented as an underdog throughout. And like, again, a huge rooting factor. People were like passionate about it, rooting it. Coda similarly, obviously, had like a great amount of.
And it was a late surge.
Nomadland was not that type of movie.
Well, that was also the COVID year. That was a front runner that did hang on, but it's also a small movie.
And there wasn't really another movie in that list that had like the
like it's still not a huge movie. So
right. Parasite was obviously like a huge, again, a phenomenon. People were like so excited about it. Green Book somehow was too, I guess. I mean, that one is just what, like, sure.
Well, at least Bo Rap did not win.
Shape of Water feels strange because I think if it was this same lineup in 2022, Get Out or Lady Bird would have won with the same exact lineup. I don't think Shape of Water would have won.
I've seen several comps to Shape of Water for Poor Things winning because it's like offbeat.
So if you do that and kind of carry it through, you got the Greta movie and the Nolan movie, both which get like good support but don't win. And Shape of Water, Poor Things is like way better. I actually like Shape of Water, but I think Poor Things is like much.
I like Shape of Water too, but I've never seen it again.
Poor Things is way superior to Shape of Water. And then Moonlight wins again, another like a great amount of passion. Spotlight, I think, was like a solid movie that had passion, but a lot of.
And it's also the important.
Birdman was just like a juggernaut. Like maybe this year is like more like the Birdman. I don't know. I'm like trying to comp it to another year. It just feels like if you're looking for like the Coda Everything Ever type movie this year, I don't think you're gonna find it. I guess would be my suggestion.
Yeah, well, we don't have something right now, but I also don't know what will break out in a way that Coda did. And the thing with Coda too is like we knew it had a great reception from Sundance that January. Like I saw it at Sundance. And then it just kind of it like opened in the summer and like didn't do anything. And then people just like slowly discovered it.
Based on the response to what we've seen so far at TIFF and Telluride and Venice, I think the only one, like American Fiction to me seems like it could be that one that people are really, really passionate about. Hitman is another one, but I don't think that's even coming out. But like Hitman had people like literally standing in their seats in the middle of the movie, like cheering it. That's how much of a crowd pleaser it was at times, according to people who saw it at TIFF. So, but I don't think either of those are really like locks either. I mean, I think American Fiction, there's a world I could see where it like gathers momentum. It has something to say about the current moment. And I don't know, maybe that like ends up playing off. I don't think it's going to win Best Picture, but I mean, I definitely think it could be a major factor as like an unexpected movie that we're not talking about as much right now.
Yeah, but I like you said, like you don't think it's winning. Like we don't.
No,
like we still have like our top dogs here, but I do think like for Oppenheimer to win, I don't think it could be seen as the front runner this entire time.
Right. And right now it's the front runner.
But again, I also don't know, like, it's just the front runner in the odds, but I don't know if people really consider it the front runner.
When I was talking to people at Telluride, it was a lot of like people were pretty much like, I guess Oppenheimer. No one just like I didn't find this. I found one person doesn't like it basically. But most people really loved it, and like still were just like, yeah, I guess Oppenheimer. I don't know.
Yeah. But it also doesn't feel like a Dunkirk, which I did have in first for like 6 months as a
Right.
placeholder. But I was never like, this is gonna win. I knew it wasn't gonna win, whereas I do think Oppenheimer can win.
Right.
So I don't know, but maybe like this year we're gonna revert back to like a huge blockbuster winning, like it's the 90s or something.
I don't know. We'll have plenty of time to talk about this, Joyce. So we'll be back. Let's wrap it up here. We have a lot of email. I have a few more emails, but we'll save them for another time. But thank you. If you emailed us, thank you. Email us at slugfest@goldderby.com. I guess next week we could talk about
We'll have the TIFF winner.
TIFF winner will help us figure some stuff out. Dumb Money is out in limited release, it seems, this week, at least in a couple of theaters. So we could talk a little more about that one. Sure. That's all I got. I guess we'll talk to you then, Joyce. This is a long one, so we're going to take a long time to upload it. Can't wait. All right. Bye.